First among equals. Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Galactic Council station, watching the swirling nebula that served as the backdrop to the most important diplomatic gathering in human history. Her reflection showed a woman in her early 40s, wearing the midnight blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, her black hair streaked with premature gray, a testament to the stress of being humanity's first representative to the Council. The station itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure that housed representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations. Its crystalline spires and sweeping arches represented the pinnacle of achievement for most species present. Most species, except perhaps the humans, who had achieved their place here through sheer determination rather than technological superiority. Ambassador Chen, your presence is requested in Chamber 7. The station's AI announced, its voice a harmonious blend of tones designed to be pleasant to most species' auditory organs. Sarah straightened her uniform and touched the small Earth insignia on her collar for luck. Chamber 7 was where the real work happened, not the grand assembly hall where species made speeches, but the smaller room where actual decisions were made. As she walked through the corridors, various alien representatives moved aside, some with diplomatic courtesy, others with barely concealed disdain. The Vax representative, Ambassador Ziril, fell into step beside her. His crystalline form caught the light, sending rainbow refractions across the walls. Ambassador Chen, I trust you've reviewed the situation on the frontier worlds. I have, Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The frontier world's crisis was exactly the kind of test humanity needed to prove itself, though she wished it hadn't come quite so soon. I have a proposal to present to the chamber. Zyril's crystalline structure vibrated in what Sarah had learned was amusement. The chamber has already heard proposals from civilizations with millennia of interstellar experience. What could Earth possibly add to the discussion? Sarah smiled, having expected this response. Perhaps a fresh perspective is exactly what's needed. Ambassador. After all, sometimes the newest eyes see what the oldest have overlooked. They reached Chamber 7's entrance, a doorway that adjusted its size and shape to accommodate whatever species was passing through. Inside, representatives from the 12 most influential council species sat around a table that hovered in midair. The only empty seat was clearly designed for human proportions, a pointed reminder that Earth's position here was provisional at best. High Counselor Ven, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, acknowledged Sarah's arrival with a pulse of blue light. Ambassador Chen, we've reviewed Earth's application for full council membership. Given recent events, some members have expressed concerns. Sarah took her seat, noting how the other representatives subtly shifted away from her. Humans were still something of an anomaly in galactic society. Too aggressive for some species' comfort, too unpredictable for others. But she knew humanity's greatest strength lay in exactly these qualities that made others uncomfortable. High Counselor, distinguished representatives, Sarah began, her voice firm. I understand your concerns. Humanity is young compared to your civilizations. We achieved faster than light travel mere decades ago, while some of you were exploring the stars before our ancestors learned to make fire. But I would argue that our youth is our advantage. The Mern representative, a feline creature with 6 eyes, flicked its tail dismissively. Advantage. Your species still fights among itself. You barely unified your planet before reaching for the stars. How can such chaos be an advantage? Because chaos breeds innovation, Sarah replied, activating the holographic display in the center of the table. And right now, with the situation in the frontier worlds, innovation is exactly what we need. The display showed the current crisis, a region of space where multiple species colonies were failing due to an inexplicable phenomenon that rendered traditional energy sources inert. Dozens of colonies were at risk, and the Council's conventional solutions had all failed. Earth was a latecomer to the galactic community. Sarah continued, but that means we had to solve problems that you solved ages ago. We had to find our own ways, develop our own solutions. And sometimes, the hardest path leads to the most valuable discoveries. She manipulated the display, showing Earth's proposal for the frontier world's crisis. As the other representatives leaned forward to study it, she saw the first flickers of interest replace their usual diplomatic masks. Even Zerl's crystalline form shifted to a frequency indicating deep thought. "This is unorthodox," High Counselor Ven observed, energy patterns swirling faster within their containment suit. "Unorthodox is what humanity does best," Sarah replied. "And right now, the conventional approach isn't working. Sometimes you need a fresh perspective, even if it comes from a species that's still learning to find its place among the stars." The chamber fell silent as the implications of Earth's proposal sank in. Sarah knew this was just the beginning. Humanity would have to prove itself not just once, but again and again. But as she looked around at the assembled representatives, she saw something she hadn't seen before: respect. And sometimes respect was all you needed to start changing the universe. The challenge. The frontier world's crisis escalated faster than anyone on the council had predicted. Sarah stood in the emergency session of Chamber 7, watching the holographic display show another colony going dark. This time, it was a Mern settlement, its power grid failing as the mysterious energy dampening field expanded. 3,000 colonists, Ambassador Murkath announced, all six eyes fixed on Sarah. 3,000 of my people now survive on emergency systems that will fail within days. Your proposal better be more than just theory, Ambassador Chen." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of those lives on her shoulders. The human proposal wasn't just theory. She'd spent the last week coordinating with Earth's best scientists to refine it. But what they were suggesting flew in the face of thousands of years of established galactic engineering principles. "The field affects all known forms of energy generation," High Counselor Ven stated, their containment suit glowing a worried orange. "Every attempt to penetrate it has failed. Even the Vax's crystalline reactors shut down within its influence." "Because we're all trying to fight against it," Sarah said, stepping forward to manipulate the holographic display. "Every species here developed their technology along similar principles: efficiency, stability, predictability. But humans," she smiled slightly, "we took a different path." The display showed Earth's historical energy development, from steam engines to nuclear fission to the present. "We never had the advantage of starting with advanced technology. We had to stumble through our development, making mistakes, finding unexpected solutions, and sometimes the most inefficient solution is exactly what you need." Ambassador Zerl's crystalline form vibrated with skepticism. "You propose to power the colonies with steam engines." "Not exactly," Sarah replied. "But the principle isn't far off. The field absorbs and neutralizes energy in complex systems. The more advanced the technology, the more complete the disruption. But simple mechanical energy transfer, combined with deliberately inefficient systems that waste enough energy to overcome the field's absorption rate." "Impossible," one of the other representatives interrupted. "The energy cost would be astronomical. Which is why we combine it with something else humanity had to learn the hard way." Sarah continued. "Adaptation. Instead of trying to maintain current colony systems, we temporarily scale back to basic necessities. The colonies can survive until we find a permanent solution." The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. Sarah stood her ground as various representatives pointed out the flaws, the risks, the sheer inelegance of the solution. But she noticed that High Counselor Ven remained silent, their energy patterns shifting in thought. 3,000 of my people," Murkath reminded the chamber, cutting through the debate. "While we argue, they draw closer to death." "There is another problem," Zyril added, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns of concern. "The field is expanding. At its current rate, it will reach major trade routes within months. We cannot simply evacuate every system in its path." Sarah activated another part of the display, showing the modified freighters Earth had already begun preparing. We can have the first ships ready in 48 hours. They're not pretty, they're not efficient, but they'll work. The only question is whether the Council will allow us to try." High Counselor Ven finally spoke, their voice carrying the weight of centuries of experience. "In all my years on the Council, I have never seen a proposal so inelegant." They paused, energy patterns swirling. "Perhaps that is exactly why it might work. I will accompany the human ships personally," Murkath announced, surprising everyone. "If Ambassador Chen is willing to risk her own people testing this theory, I will stand with them." One by one, other representatives began to voice their support, some enthusiastic, others reluctant. Sarah maintained her diplomatic composure, but inside, her heart was racing. This was humanity's chance to prove themselves, not through grand speeches or advanced technology, but through the very qualities that made them unique. Their ability to find solutions in chaos, to turn inefficiency into advantage, to never give up even when facing the impossible. As the chamber session ended and the representatives filed out, High Counselor Ven held Sarah back. "Ambassador Chen, I hope you understand what you're risking. If this fails, humanity will still keep trying." Sarah replied firmly. "It's what we do." The High Counselor's energy patterns formed what Sarah had learned to recognize as a smile. "Perhaps that is why you make the older species so uncomfortable. You remind us of our own younger days, when we were not so certain of our place in the universe." Sarah left the chamber with her mind already racing through preparations. They had 48 hours to prove that humanity's greatest strengths lay in the very qualities other species saw as weaknesses. The real challenge was just beginning. Human ingenuity. The modified freighter shuddered as it approached the edge of the energy-dampening field. Sarah stood on the bridge alongside Captain Maya Rodriguez, watching as the ship's conventional power systems began to fluctuate. Behind them, Ambassador Murkath's tail twitched nervously. Conventional power failing exactly as predicted, Maya reported, her hands dancing over the manual controls. "Switching to backup systems in 3, 2, 1. The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized as the makeshift mechanical power system engaged. The low thrum of massive pistons filled the ship, an inefficient, brutal solution that would have horrified most galactic engineers. But it worked. By the ancient suns, Murkath whispered, all 6 eyes wide. "It actually works." "Don't celebrate yet," Sarah cautioned, though she couldn't keep the smile from her face. "We still have to reach the colony and deploy the ground units." The ship pushed deeper into the field, its primitive systems groaning under the strain. They'd stripped out most of the advanced technology, replacing it with systems that would have looked more at home in Earth's industrial revolution than a spacefaring vessel. Steam power, mechanical linkages, and carefully calculated energy wastage that overwhelmed the field's ability to absorb it. "Multiple contacts," Maya announced. "Looks like we're not the only ones who decided to attempt a rescue." The holographic display, powered by a deliberately oversized and inefficient projector, showed several other ships approaching the Mern colony. Sarah recognized the crystalline structures of Vax vessels and the organic curves of Tellurian ships. "The Council sent observers," Sarah explained, noting Murkath's confusion. "They want to see if our solution works, and probably be ready to attempt a rescue if it fails." A communication came through, distorted but understandable. "Human vessel, this is High Commissioner Ven. We are monitoring your approach. Be advised that the field's strength has increased by 17% since your last calculations." Sarah exchanged glances with Maya. They'd planned for some variance, but 17% was pushing their safety margins. The captain's expression hardened with determination, a look Sarah had come to recognize as uniquely human. "Acknowledged, High Commissioner," Maya replied. "Proceeding as planned." The next hour was tense as they pushed through the field. Multiple systems failed and were bypassed. Engineering crews worked frantically to keep the mechanical power systems running. Every few minutes, another alarm would sound, and another human would find another improvised solution. "Your people," Murkath observed, watching an engineer jury-rig a replacement for a failed pressure valve using parts that were never meant to work together. They seem almost excited by these failures. Humans thrive on solving problems, Sarah explained, especially impossible ones. We call it jerry-rigging, making things work with whatever you have available. A strange way to build a civilization, the Mern ambassador mused. Yet I begin to see its advantages. They were nearing the colony when the main power coupling failed catastrophically. The bridge plunged into darkness, emergency lighting casting everything in a red glow. Sarah could hear cursing in multiple languages from the engineering section. "We've lost the primary mechanical drive," Maya reported, her voice steady despite the crisis. "Switching to emergency protocols." "Emergency protocols?" Murkath demanded. "What emergency protocols?" Sarah gripped her console as the ship shuddered violently. "Something we hoped we wouldn't need, Captain." Maya grinned, an expression that would have terrified most alien species. "Going to full manual control, starting emergency restart sequence." Ambassador Chen, "I believe this is where that human saying about praying comes in handy." The next few minutes were chaos as the crew executed a plan that no other species would have even considered. They deliberately vented plasma from the backup systems, using the reaction to push them toward the colony. At the same time, engineers worked to restart the mechanical systems in a specific sequence that turned the ship's own momentum into emergency power. "This is madness," Murkath said, but there was a note of admiration in their voice. "This is humanity," Sarah replied. "We don't always know if something will work, but we'll try it anyway. And then we'll keep trying until we succeed or find another way." The colony came into view. A dome-covered settlement now dark except for failing emergency lights. But as their ship approached, trailing plasma and running on systems that defied conventional engineering wisdom, Sarah saw something else. Hope. "High Commissioner," she called over the still-functioning comm system. "Request permission to begin colony rescue operations. We've confirmed our systems can function within the field." There was a long pause before Ven's reply came through. "Permission granted, Ambassador Chen. And impressive work. The Council will be most interested in your report." As they began the docking sequence, Sarah turned to Murkath. "Ambassador, would you like to be the first to greet your people?" The Mern's eyes glistened with emotion. "I would be honored. And I believe I owe humanity an apology. We dismissed your species as primitive, unready for full Council membership. We were wrong." "No apology needed," Sarah said, watching as the human crew prepared for the next phase of their mission. "Just remember this. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in our technology or our knowledge. It's in our refusal to accept failure as final. When conventional solutions fail, we create unconventional ones. When something's impossible, we find a way to do it anyway." Through the viewport, she could see other ships approaching. Council vessels adapted with crude but effective versions of their own systems. Already, humanity's solution was being copied and improved upon. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't efficient, but it worked. And sometimes, that was all that mattered. Ripple effect. 3 weeks after the successful rescue of the Mern colony, Sarah found herself back in Chamber 7. This time, however, the atmosphere was markedly different. The representatives who had once kept their distance now leaned forward with interest as she presented the full report on the rescue operation. "The modified systems have been successfully deployed to 17 more colonies," Sarah explained, manipulating the holographic display to show the expanding network of human-inspired technology. "The energy-dampening field continues to expand, but we're staying ahead of it." High Counselor Ven's energy patterns shifted to a deep blue of satisfaction. "And the efficiency losses, horrific by any normal standard," Sarah admitted with a slight smile. "We're basically brute-forcing our way through the field's effects. But the colonies are surviving, and that's what matters." Ambassador Zirl's crystalline form vibrated with what Sarah now recognized as excitement rather than skepticism. We've begun incorporating some of these principles into our own designs. The deliberate inefficiency is counterintuitive, but the results are undeniable. That's not the most interesting development, Murkath interjected, tail swishing animatedly. Tell them about what happened at the Tellurian outpost. Sarah nodded, adjusting the display. The Tellurian engineers, working alongside our team, discovered that when you combine their organic technology with our mechanical approach, the resulting hybrid system is even more resistant to the field's effects. It's not just about copying our solution. It's about finding new ways to combine our different approaches. The chamber erupted in discussion, representatives talking over each other as they considered the implications. Sarah watched with satisfaction as species that had barely collaborated before now eagerly shared their own modifications and improvements to the original human design. Ambassador Chen, a voice called from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Admiral Kenna of the Council Defense Fleet enter the chamber. The Admiral's gelatinous form pulsed with urgent colors. We've detected something unusual at the edge of the field. The holographic display shifted to show a massive structure, almost invisible against the backdrop of space. Sarah felt her breath catch as she recognized the implications of its pattern. It's not natural, she said, voicing what everyone was thinking. No, Admiral Kenna confirmed. We believe it's artificial, ancient technology, possibly millions of years old. Our best theory is that it's some kind of test or filter. A test? Zyril asked, his crystalline structure dimming in confusion. Sarah felt a laugh bubble up inside her. Of course. It's not trying to stop us. It's forcing us to adapt, to think differently. She turned to High Counselor Ven. How many species have encountered this field before? The High Counselor's energy patterns swirled thoughtfully. According to our records, similar phenomena have appeared 3 times in the last 1,000,000 years. Each time, the affected civilizations eventually found solutions, but the records are unclear about the details. Because each civilization had to find its own way through, Sarah realized. The field adapts to whatever it encounters, forcing each species to move beyond their standard approaches. And humanity, Murkath added, with your tendency to embrace chaos and inefficiency, might have found a solution faster than any previous civilization. The implications hung in the air. The Council had initially viewed humanity's unorthodox approaches as a weakness, a sign of their technological immaturity. Now those same traits had not only solved an immediate crisis, but potentially revealed the purpose of an ancient galactic mystery. Admiral Kenna's form rippled with urgency. The structure appears to be powering up. We're detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our records. Then we better figure out what it wants, Sarah said, already pulling up data from the human ships closest to the phenomenon. And I have a feeling it's going to take all of our perspectives, not just humanity's brute force approach, but everyone's unique insights to understand what we're dealing with. She looked around the chamber, seeing not the doubt and dismissal of a few weeks ago, but genuine eagerness for collaboration. The crisis had done more than prove humanity's worth. It had shown all species the value of combining their different approaches. I move that we establish a joint task force, High Counselor Ven announced, their energy form pulsing with determination. With representatives from all Council species under Ambassador Chen's coordination. The vote was unanimous. As the chamber buzzed with activity, Sarah felt a moment of pride, not just in humanity's contribution, but in how quickly the galactic community had adapted to a new way of thinking. They had started by trying to prove humanity's worth to the Council, but they had ended up demonstrating something far more important, the power of embracing different perspectives.